For about as long as I can remember, BMW built their reputation on offering driver's cars for enthusiasts. Now, of course, if you were looking for the ultimate driving BMW, the M3 was always that perfect vehicle that kind of embodied that philosophy. Now, unfortunately, the M3 has gotten bigger, heavier, and a lot more expensive over the years, which is why around a decade ago, BMW introduced a smaller car called the M2. Now, around 2 years ago, the company introduced an all-new second-generation M2, and for 2026, BMW is following up with the ultimate version of that M2 called the M2 CS. And as you can see, this model essentially benefits from a lot of the upgrades that we saw from other CS models. So what we have here is an upgraded suspension, a more aggressive look on the outside, and more power underneath the hood, courtesy of that twin turbocharged 3-liter inline six. So today we're actually out here at the Michelin Lawrence Proving Ground in South Carolina because we're finally getting an opportunity to drive the all-new M2 CS. And the big question I want to answer, has BMW successfully crafted the ultimate driving machine in the form of this M2 CS? Stay tuned to find out. Now, before we start talking about the unique styling elements of this brand new 2026 M2 CS, this is an M car, of course, so we have to talk about what's going on underneath the hood. Now, when you lift up the hood, which by the way, this is essentially the same hood from the regular M2, you're gonna find the more powerful version of the company's S58 twin turbocharged 3-liter inline six. Now, this engine is essentially the same tune that we get from something like an M4 competition, and compared to the regular M2, the 3-liter twin turbo inline six now makes up to 523 horsepower and 479 pound-feet of torque. That's a pretty significant 50 horsepower jump versus the base version of this car. Remember, when the M2 first came out, it only offered 453 horsepower. So BMW has been busy giving the smallest member of the M family essentially more power over the years. Now, the downside with the M2 CS is it only is available with an 8-speed ZF automatic transmission, which could be a good or a bad thing depending on if you prefer driving a car with a stick shift. And the other interesting twist about the M2 CS is this vehicle sends all of its power to the rear wheel. So what you're looking at here is the most powerful production rear drive car that BMW's M division has ever crafted. Fuel economy, in case you're wondering, is rated at 16 in the city, 23 on the highway. That's of course on premium gas. This has roughly a 13.7 gallon fuel tank, so be prepared to be going to the fuel station a lot because you're probably only going to get around 260-ish miles of range on a full tank. Now, of course, with that extra power, BMW claims the 0 to 60 time has improved to 3.7 seconds, and with the driver's package that's standard, you have a top speed of up to 188 miles an hour. So that's a good healthy jump versus the 174 in the base M2. Curb weight has also gone down. BMW has managed to reduce the curb weight by nearly 100 pounds at around 3,770 pounds, which is again not as light as the previous generation, which was around 200 pounds lighter. But remember, that car only offered up to 444 horsepower. So this is a pretty big jump versus the previous generation if you guys had that car. But let's go ahead and close up the hood here and talk about the exterior styling. I'm going to move over to this side here because I want to be able to talk about the design. Now, as you can see, the look of this car is far more aggressive versus the standard M2. In fact, I wasn't really a big fan of the original M2 when it first came out, at least for the second generation, but it kind of grew on me over the years. This color that you're looking at is exclusive to the CS. It's called Velvet Blue. It's an extra $3,000, and it's actually more of like a purple color, depending on how the light hits it. You can see the grille has that kind of controversial look, but it's also not quite as big as the kidneys that you find on the M4 and the M3. But again, this has kind of grown on me over the years. You can see the insert of the grille, instead of the 3 vertical horizontal slats, you have just one. It's kind of got a larger air intake opening with the M2 CS badging there that's outlined in red. You have even larger openings here. The headlights, as you can see, are their full LED. These are actually the shadow light LEDs that are standard. You have an LED daytime running light, although it's not the amber illumination that you get on the M3 and the M4. And then down here you can see there's more functional openings. And then this area here, as you can see, is a little bit more aggressive on the front splitter, but it's also not like a full carbon. And BMW again did this, I suspect, for cost savings, but it also makes this a little bit more durable where you're not worrying about kind of damaging the front end when you're driving on those lower curb areas. BMW in general says they've lowered this car by around 0.2 inches compared to the standard car. So it's low, but it's also not as ridiculously low as some of the other sports cars that it may compete with in this segment. Now, moving around to the side profile of the car, you can see the M2 is the smallest member of the M family, and it certainly shows in the dimensions because if you're looking at something like an M4, this car is roughly 9 inches shorter in the overall length at 180.6 with a 108.3 inch wheelbase. It's technically still 5 inches longer than the old M2 CS, but I think it's still got a really nice proportion to the car. You can see the wheels on this model. These are exclusive to the M2 CS. You can see it's got this really interesting kind of bronze accents to it. It's a 19-inch wheel at the front, a 20-inch wheel in the back. You have a staggered setup, obviously, so the front tires are 275, fatter 285s at the rear, and you can take your pick between 3 different types of tires that were at the Michelin Proving Ground. So these are the kind of the more street-oriented, this is the track-focused tire. It's a Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2. There's also a Cup 2R, and there's also a Pilot Sport 4. The carbon ceramic brakes that you see on this model here are optional, which is an upgrade from the M2, the base one, because you can't get the carbons on that model, but you can see these are an $8,500 extra charge, and it also comes with the red brake calipers, which you'll also get red brake calipers if you just get the steel brakes. These rotors, I believe, are around 15.7 inches, 15 inches to the back, and you also have that upgraded M suspension, of course, with adaptive dampers. And overall, I really love the stance of this car, especially when you have it with the bronze color of the wheels with this velvet blue exterior design, and also the carbon fiber that you're seeing on the mirror caps are also standard. Same thing with the carbon fiber for the roof. You can get this feature on the regular M2, but it's part of like a $9,900 carbon package. But here on the CS, as you can see, it's kind of including that. There's no sunroof on this model, so if you want a sunroof, BMW will happily sell you an M4 or an M3, for example. Now coming over to the rear of the car, this is where I love what the BMW has done here with the exterior styling changes. The first thing you're gonna notice, obviously, is the huge ducktail spoiler at the back. This is built into the trunk lid, and it literally almost looks like a ski slope as you kind of go down here, and it just angles upward. And that's all, I believe, gonna add some functional aerodynamics, although BMW didn't say how much. You can see there's also that badging here, that M2 CS badging that's outlined in red. That's how you're gonna know this is that serious, CS model. Remember, CS stands for competition sport. The taillights look pretty similar to what you get on the standard M2. The rear bumper, as you can see, is similar, but you have a much more aggressive rear diffuser, which is in carbon fiber. And I almost wish that the front splitter was also carbon fiber, but you can see here with the signature quad outlet exhaust, they're also kind of outlined in black. That's standard on the M2 CS. BMW says the exhaust is roughly the same. And in case you guys forgot, this car already sounded great in the base car, but here on this CS model, I actually thought it sounded a lot better. So let's go ahead and fire it up. You can hear how it sounds real quick. And if you guys really love a straight 6, that's the reason why you're gonna buy a BMW M car. I love the fact that the company still uses that wonderful S58 engine. Now you can see, looking at the trunk lid area, this is a traditional like coupe sedan style vehicle, so it's not a hatchback. And what you're looking at is actually a pretty decent amount of trunk space. BMW says you're around 13.7 cubic feet of storage space, which is actually very usable. The seats actually do fold down in a 40-20-40 manner. You have additional storage off to the side, which is a nice touch. And then this floor actually, it looks like doesn't lift up, or at least it's hard for me to lift it up. There's no spare on this car, so I don't expect to find something like that. But again, if you plan to use this as your only vehicle, the M2 and the M2 CS are actually relatively practical from just a cargo perspective. Now moving on to the interior of this 2026 BMW M2 CS. First of all, the exterior has a very unique look to it. On the inside, it's mostly the standard M2. However, there are a couple of differences that we should talk about. First of all, these seats. These are the standard competition seats. They are in full carbon fiber. These are an optional seat on the M2. BMW only offers it in this full merino in black with the M specific colors that you'll find on the upper portion of the seats. I love the way these seats look. I love how it has a CS logo that's illuminated in the actual seat. There's a lot of holes here and cutouts because BMW essentially wants you to be able to put like a racing harness in these seats if you need to, if you plan to take it out to the track. I am surprised to see that the seats are still an 8-way power adjustable, which is something that I was kind of expecting BMW to give us a manual seat for the weight savings, but it's nice how at least there's still power. And these seats are also heated. You also have a heated steering wheel, but if you're looking for ventilated seats, you're gonna have to go again, move up to an M4. But getting inside the interior, as you can see, with that lowered suspension, this vehicle only offers around 4.7 inches of ground clearance. So it feels like you're getting into a sports car. As I shut the door has a really solid sounding thunk. Remember, this is a 2-door coupe, so the door is large and it's heavy. But once you get inside this vehicle, as you can see, once you kind of get past these seats, this little area here is designed to essentially hold you in place. It's a little bit of a challenge to get in at first, but once you're actually in the seat, you kind of feel like you're sitting in a race car. And that's kind of the whole point of a CS model. First of all, here's the key fob for the vehicle. All M2 CSs come with their intelligent access key. This is BMW's latest design with the M colors on it. There's the typical buttons here for unlock, lock, opening for the trunk, and a panic feature. You can also get remote start. That's like an extra $300 a la carte option if you'd like to do that. I'm sitting here in a garage, so I'm not going to start the vehicle up right now, but just looking at the rest of this cabin, if you guys have seen our interior overview on the regular M2, this is pretty familiar, although there are a couple of changes. First of all, the steering wheel. This is the Alcantara steering wheel that's standard. It's got that flat bottom design with all the extra carbon fiber, including these big carbon fiber paddle shifters to control the 8-speed automatic. There's also the big M1 and M2 buttons. This is how you access your drive modes, where you can customize those settings, obviously, along with your cruise control and audio switches over here. The door panels, as you can see, has a soft, slightly padded soft touch injection molded plastic with some leather material here. There's also this little carbon fiber trim here with the CS badging that actually illuminates at night. It looks pretty nice. You have one touch up down for the window controls. They have that high quality feel along with power folding mirrors. Again, that's a super nice touch. It's all hard touch plastic in that lower area. The rest of the dash, as you can see, is dominated by BMW's latest iDrive 8.5. So this system is technically not their newest iDrive 9, but I also appreciate the fact that you have a 14.9-inch screen over here in the center and a 12.3-inch display over here. The dash has a slightly padded soft touch injection molded plastic with more of that genuine carbon fiber, which remember is all part of an extra package on lower versions of the M2, not the CS. You have air vents here, which have a traditional little toggle to actually adjust the airflow. You have some buttons here and some knobs, but most of the controls have moved into the screen. For example, the climate control has moved into the screen. You have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. That takes a little bit of getting used to, but as you can see, iDrive 8.5 is really good. It also has, again, the M drift analyzer because it comes with that driver's package, of course, and then you still get features like a wireless phone charging pad, lots of carbon fiber here, and you also have that M specific shifter, of course, with your M drive modes over here along with that iDrive controller. The other change you're going to notice is there's no more center console here and no more cup holders. That's always been kind of the signature thing here with the CS model, is there's no place to put your hot coffee, which you shouldn't be doing anyways. You should be driving this car. But I love all the exposed carbon fiber here. This just looks really upscale. It makes it look like a race car, along with this kind of CS badging here with this nice padded leather area. I would like to see an armrest here. That's something that I personally would like myself, but again, BMW wanted this to be part of that CS family, so they got rid of that feature. The seats, like I mentioned earlier, they are power adjustable. They're still heated, and once you're in the seats, they're very comfortable and supportive, and I love the kind of M colors that you get with this specific model as well. You can see the glove box. There's still a functional glove box. It's when you open it up, it's stamped and it's lined with felt, offers additional covered storage. And then above me, you can see no sunroof, but because there's no sunroof, you do have plenty of headroom. I'm at 5'7". I can kind of fit very comfortably in this car, and you still get features like a head-up display, which is a nice touch, and BMW's Harman Kardon premium stereo is also included, which it better be considering the starting price of this car, which we'll talk about in a moment. But let's go ahead and hop into that backseat area, because this car is still a two-door coupe, and it is still possible to get people in the backseat area, and this is kind of where the M2 CS hasn't really lost any of that functionality that you got in the regular M2. But let me just go ahead and get back here to show you guys the space. Now, I'm 5'7" again, and I can actually sit back here, and it's not too hateful. Now, first of all, when I sit back, my head does graze the ceiling, but if I kind of lean forward, it's fine. BMW says there's like 32 inches of legroom back here, which is not a lot, but it's also pretty much on par with what you'd expect from a two-door coupe. Obviously, this only has space for two people back here. There's no cup holders, just a little bit of storage here. You can fold this down to kind of create that pass-through and kind of create almost like a armrest back here. I almost wish the BMW had included an armrest. No heated back seats back here. There is still leather padding back here, and there's a decent sized window. No USB charging or air vents back here, but remember, race car, that's with all the carbon fiber in here. But still, if you guys are looking at this car to drive as your only vehicle, that's the beauty about the M2 and the CS models. You can still technically use this as your only car because it is relatively practical, especially if you're comparing it to something like a Corvette or a Porsche Cayman. So when the all-new BMW M2 came out back in 2020, it was very much regarded as the ultimate driving M car from BMW. It's the smallest, it's the lightest, it's the most affordable model, and it's the model that just is begging to be driven on a track. So here we are at the Michelin Lawrence Proving Ground here, about an hour south of Greenville, South Carolina. And this is not the ideal conditions I was hoping to be able to drive this car in. Unfortunately, when you're in this part of the country in October, you're gonna have to deal with cold, wet, rainy conditions. But we are in this velvet blue M2 CS. This one has the Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 tires on it, or Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires on it. And it also has the optional carbon ceramic brakes. This car also has that carbon fiber roof that's standard, the carbon fiber rear trunk lid. It helps to lower the car's weight, and it also has a unique suspension tune for the M2 CS. And I have to say, I'm not gonna push the car too hard just because the track, as you can see, is wet. I've got two other vehicles in front of me following. I'm the last car, thankfully, so I can kind of get a feel. What I'm noticing right away is the steering in this car. BMW has struggled a little bit with getting their electric power steering right, but in this car, it has a ton of feel to it. It's still a little bit too light, but I can feel when those front tires are losing grip, and that's important, especially if you're driving on a track on these wet conditions. These 285 width tires are definitely doing what they need to do to give me as much grip as possible. Now I'm looking for places on the track where it's not shiny, because that's where you're gonna have a little bit more wetness and less adhesion. But I have to say, the car stays very, very flat. There is little to no body lean whatsoever, and the regular M2 honestly didn't have much of it. The brakes feel strong. They are those carbon ceramics, and when I turn in, I can just feel the car doing what it needs to do to grip. The chassis has so much grip. The engine also has so much torque. Remember, this powertrain is the same powertrain as the base M2, but it's got some software tuning to it and some hardware tuning changes to kind of give it that extra 50 horsepower. In a car that's 100 pounds lighter, you feel that lightness in this car. As I go around the corners in this track, the car just begs to be driven a little bit harder. In fact, this is, again, the most powerful rear-wheel drive car that BMW M division has done, with 523 horsepower. Sadly, I won't be able to do a 0 to 60 time, but BMW claims 3.7 seconds for this model, but we got 3.88 in a manual M2 2 years ago, so I wouldn't be surprised if this car was a 3.5 second car below that when you engage the launch control. Sadly, I won't be able to do that here, but still, there is a tenacious amount of grip, power, and poise with this car. Visibility is also excellent. I can see out of the front, the side, and the rear quite nicely. And right now we're driving the car in track mode with all of the nannies off, and I have to say, it feels pretty confidence inspiring. I was a little nervous at first. I mean, we're getting up to speeds of almost 90 miles an hour in this car, which kind of can be daunting when you've never driven on a track like this, but okay. So I'm actually gonna switch places here to go in the middle. I've got Jared Rosenholtz from Car Buzz in front of me, a good friend of mine. He's I'd say a little bit more of a experienced track driver versus myself, but I'm impressed. This car has a tenacious amount of grip, poise, and it just feels like a car that begs to be driven harder and harder around, more preferably, a dry track. Now, as I drive this car more and more on the track, I'm definitely starting to get a little more comfortable with it. It's very daunting at first, but we're getting up to almost 100 there, and then hard on the brakes here. Wow, you can really feel how hard they bite. It's raining out here. The wipers are responding to the extra rain that's hitting the windshield at those higher speeds, but man, does this car just pull. It has that track feel that you're looking for in an M product. Whew, the brake, it stays pretty stable. That was a harder brake that I had to do there. I'm being very gentle with the throttle because, oh, but listen to the sound of this engine. It still has technically the same exhaust system as the regular M2. BMW confirmed that they did not change the exhaust aside from just the black tips, but the regular M2 already sounded phenomenal. I mean, you gotta love a straight 6. So it really didn't need much help there. And some of you are probably upset that there is no manual on this model, but this 8-speed is just so quick. It's so responsive. It reads your mind, and it shifts almost as fast as a dual clutch. So I'm okay with it being an 8-speed. Oh, so much torque. There's torque everywhere. Oh, so yeah, if you guys are looking for the ultimate track weapon from BMW M, the M2 has always been that vehicle, but with the CS model, I know this is a hefty price premium, but you're getting a car that is track capable right out of the box, and you're also getting the exclusivity factor, because while BMW didn't talk about how many they're going to build, you can expect it's going to be a limited number, and it's only going to be available for 1 year in 2026. Wish it wasn't wet outside, because I would love to push this car harder, but that's why. Whoa. This car is definitely giving me sweaty palms, or at least this track experience is. This is crazy in this wet. Now I can see why they use an Alcantara steering wheel, because it just soaks up the sweat coming from your hands. All right, BMW actually set up this autocross course for us to try out, and this is kind of where I can get the M2 CS a little slidey. We have the car in its M2 mode, which turns the stability control way off, You can adjust that to your settings, but let's go ahead and see what this is like. I can really test out the handling dynamics and the steering feel here. And the one thing is the roads are damp. We are on the Michelin Pilot Sport 4s. And this car, that sharp steering out on the track, you feel it again out here. It's incredible what this car is able to do. It does understeer. Woo! Okay, there's a little 360.
Good, check it out.
That was my bad, okay. I'm still kind of learning the dynamics of this car, but you go in a little too hot, it'll spin out like that, and you can feel the understeer. Again, when you turn off all the nannies in this car, you better make sure you're paying attention, because it definitely is a drift machine. It likes to drift out. But the steering is just so sharp. It turns in so fast, and you can feel exactly what those front tires are doing. There we go, steering with the throttle there. There we go. Oh yeah, I could probably do this all day long, and in these conditions, it is a lot of fun. I'm gonna get 2 more runs here, and we're gonna see, hopefully I don't spin out this time, because that was very embarrassing to get that on camera, but again, this car just puts the power down, and it feels so much fun. There's a certain finesse to this car. Hopefully not lose it there. This time I didn't lose it, thank God. But oh, this thing just turns in. There's the understeer there, but you can kind of fix that by letting go and then using your foot. There's a little slalom here, but if you go in too hot, the car starts to step out. This is with all the nannies shut off again. It is, as you can see, raining outside, but not horribly raining. It's just drizzling out here, but my God, this car. All right, there's the understeer again. Oh my God, that's amazing. So when I first had a chance to drive the regular BMW M2, I have to say I was very impressed, because I've always been a big fan of BMW's M cars, but again, like so many other enthusiasts, I felt that the current M3 and M4 have just gotten a lot more big, or a lot are too large, too heavy, and a little bit too expensive. And this is where that smaller M2 comes into play, because it essentially captures a lot of the driving magic, that driving nirvana and bliss that enthusiasts are looking for, in a smaller package that is actually a lot more affordable. But after spending the day driving this M2 CS, this is kind of where things get a little bit interesting, because for the extra price premium, BMW gives you a lot here. You get 50 more horsepower, which, as you guys saw on the track, it really makes this car feel like a track-focused weapon. And while I wasn't able to push this car as hard as I wanted to, and I also couldn't do a 0 to 60 because of the weather conditions, you can kind of feel the tenacious grip that this car has. It feels a lot more like a sincere sports car. It feels like it's ready to take on the Porsche Cayman GT4, for example, and which I view as the direct competitor for this vehicle. The ride quality also surprisingly wasn't too bad, but I'll have to wait until I get one back home to test it out on real worlds. The seats are also very comfortable. Again, once you kind of get into the seats, they're good. The tech in this car is good. The engine sounds phenomenal. I'm still a huge fan of this S58 engine, so I'll be really looking forward to spending more time with this vehicle at some point in better weather conditions. But this is kind of where the M2 CS gets a little interesting, because the pricing of this car. You can get to a base M2 for around $68,000. That's a screaming deal. However, if you guys want this vehicle here, it's going to cost you nearly 50% more, because BMW wants an extra $30,000 for this vehicle. And that sounds like a lot on paper, which it is a lot on paper. In fact, if you're looking at something like an M4 competition with xDrive, that model starts at around 90 grand. So this car is around 8 grand more expensive than its bigger brother, although some would argue that the CS is a lot more focused. It's also a lot more rare, because BMW will only offer this model essentially for 1 year. It's built in their factory in Mexico, and they didn't want to talk about how many units they're going to build. We know essentially that it's going to not be a lot. I think for the previous generation, BMW only offered around 2,000. I would probably expect them to roughly do the same. Keep in mind, however, this model that we're showing you here, painted in velvet blue with the carbon ceramic brakes, does increase the price, including the destination charge of $1,100 to around $111,275. So again, you're talking about an M2 that is over $100,000, over $110,000. Of course, that's with the $8,500 carbon ceramic brakes, which for that kind of money, you can easily get an M3 or an M4, but I'd argue that this model is going to be a lot more special. It's going to be a lot more rare. It's going to be a lot more track focused. So if you're looking for exactly that, you're going to easily want to pay the price premium. But for those of you who don't necessarily need the ultimate track weapon and you really don't care about having something that's a lot more rare, the base M2 for around 70 grand, which you can still get today, is probably still going to be that screaming deal. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2026 BMW M2 CS. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.